Good evening, everybody. I'm Fictional Crystals, and Keith's blade will retire. Since Season 1 of Voltron Legendary Defender, fans have been theorizing that Keith is part Galra.
You fight like a Galra soldier.
The Season 2 episode, The Blade of Mamora, confirmed that he has a human father and Galra mother. However, it wasn't until the Season 5 episode, Bloodlines, that us and Keith actually got to see her. Her name is KROLIA, and before Keith reunited with her, the only trace he had of her, other than his blood, was his knife. KROLIA ended up leaving the Earth and her family shortly after Keith's birth. The exact reason why has yet to be confirmed. Although it's not impossible to figure out. Voltron enjoys creating parallels between characters. For instance, Aksha and Keith, the second in commands. Keith, Lance, and King Alfor, the Red Paladins. And the 5 original Paladins, and the 5 Paladins from Season 1. Parallels between parents and children or other family members are especially common.
Ah, modulating arguments. That's how your mother and I met.
Lotor is following in the footsteps of his parents with his knowledge and the rift, whether he wants to admit it or not.
I know many ideas float through your head, just like your father.
The experiments of my mother Arnerva could never be undone. I will pilot us through the rift, and we will harvest the unlimited quintessence that exists in the layer between realities.
And Allura is doing the same with leading and alchemy. Keith acts almost exactly like KROLIA.
Shut up and trust me!
Keith may not have had much of a family growing up, but he's found one within Team Voltron.
That means we're all related. This ship, those stars, the Olkari, even the Galra.
Unfortunately, he left them because he felt he couldn't stay. He was a flawed leader that put his team in dangerous situations. After Shiro returned, Keith saw no reason to continue leading, since he knew Shiro could do a better job, and there weren't enough lines for all 6 paladins. He figured he was the team's weakest link. He figured the team didn't want nor need him, so he pushed them away before they rejected him. Keith used the Blade of Mamora and their missions as an excuse to leave the paladins. KROLIA didn't think she had a place on Earth. Humans at that time weren't accustomed to aliens. Only now are they finding out about the Galra.
As soon as I get back, I'll inform the Galaxy Garrison what's going on.
She wouldn't be able to go anywhere other humans would see unless she said she was wearing like a costume or something. She didn't know how to take care of a human child. She didn't want him to get caught up in the war. Perhaps baby Keith even got a glimpse of the bad Galra Empire, which was why he had some recognition of the symbol. It was dangerous having KROLIA around him. She barely kept herself out of dangerous situations back then. KROLIA used the Blade of Mamora as an excuse to leave her family. She had important missions to carry out in the fight against the Galra Empire. By spending time on Earth and falling in love with a human, she had put her own feelings above whatever mission she was meant to be on at the time, likely one involving the Blue Lion since she was in that area of the universe.
The Blue Lion was there. Did a Galra pilot the Blue Lion too?
The Blade of Mamora strongly urged its members to disregard emotions, their happiness, and own lives in favor of the mission.
So you cannot allow your feelings to cloud your judgment.
Which, to be honest, is understandable, since this is a war situation. KROLIA had to go back to them. She left her knife with her partner.
I gave it to your father.
She wanted her knife to eventually be passed on to her son when he was old enough for it, so he'd have a bit of her. Keith's dad ended up leaving the picture slightly later in Keith's life too, for unknown reasons. Keith ended up orphaned pretty young. Keith's dad was with him long enough for him to remember him, but he sheltered him from the truth about his mother. He constantly dodged Keith's questions about her. He wouldn't mention the Galra or the war. It's really easy to see that from the way he acted around Keith in the dream.
Everything's fine.
He had this creepy vibe to him. It makes sense if he left Keith because he died. Keith doesn't blame his father for leaving him, but he does blame his mother.
I'm naturally untrusting because my mom left me.
I don't think Keith's dad had much of a choice in leaving him. The only issue with him being dead is the way Keith spoke to him in his dream. Keith's reaction to seeing him wasn't like, "Oh my god, how are you alive?" It was more like, "I haven't seen you in a while, why are you back?"
Son, so many years have passed. I have so much to tell you.
Within the next season of Voltron that'll be released June 15th, our questions about Keith's blood family shall be answered thanks to him and KROLIA mending their bond. He'll finally get some closure on why she left, and he'll find out why she ended up on Earth in the first place. Keith's dad did say everything would be explained when his mother arrived. Well, now she's there.
Your mother is almost here. She'll tell you everything.
After Season 6's release, Keith's Ready to Read storybook will be coming out in stores and online. These books, even though they're meant for children, hold some interesting tidbits about character backstories. In Pidge's book, it showed her backstory of getting bullied, her relationship with her family, and her dressing up as a boy. In Shiro's, it showed him at the garrison, his relationship with the Holtz, his trip to Kerberos, and him earning the name Champion. Both of these backstories have already been revealed on the show itself, so naturally, the books didn't contain any spoilers and got released first. Keith's upcoming book has got to contain parts of his past, except almost none of his backstory is known in detail. We know he's half Galra, his parents left him. He was the best in his class at the garrison until Shiro went missing and he decked Iverson in the face, getting him expelled. Most of these things have been mentioned, just not shown on the show. That's what Season 6 is going to be doing before this book's release. But now, I want to talk about his future. I've discussed before that he'll be fixing his problems with KROLIA. One of her Galra marks will show up on his face. It might have been triggered to appear due to quintessence. And he'll be returning to Team Voltron at long last after his talks from KROLIA not to make the same mistakes as her, and that's where someone informs him about the Shiro astral plane and clone situation. With the paladin's leader being a clone controlled by Hagar, Lotor's arch enemy, Keith needs to step in and fill a position. Someone's got to inform Keith about Shiro.
I would absolutely travel across the galaxy to find you.
It's not you, Princess Allura. It's me.
With some newfound inner peace from KROLIA and her advice, he'll be able to work with the team better than ever. Keith now has his real mother, not just a blade. Before he found her, his knife was all he had of her. He hung onto it despite the trouble it caused him. It was his one connection to his past and his parents, and he felt as if he couldn't let it go. To him back then, it defined him. Keith fought for that knife to near death because of this. He believed it had all the answers of his past. Only after realizing that the knife didn't define him, his past didn't define him, was he able to let go.
Just take the knife. It doesn't matter where I come from. I know who I am.
He knows himself. He's his own connection to his parents, not that blade. He realizes that there's more important things than it. His happiness, his health, and his team. He was risking it all during his trials. And he's risking it all with the blades right now. Team Voltron needs him, not the clone. The clone is causing issues between the team, and possibly will forming Voltron because of this in the future. The Blade of Marmora can go on without him.
The Marmora can go on without you. They have for thousands of years. Voltron cannot.
There are many members that span emotions and familial ties than him. They're a group, whereas Team Voltron is a family. If one person in the team isn't there for them, they can't function. The Paladins and Lions are one unit. Keith strongly values his family. His family isn't a blade, it's these people, and her, and him. KROLIA and them are the driving forces behind his return to the Paladins. He's going to realize that he already has a family, and he isn't required to stay with the Blades. Now, what does him leaving the Blade of Marmora represent? More specifically, what would him retiring his blade represent? Like he was about to do in Season 2, Episode 8.
If that means I give up this knife, fine. Take it.
By literally giving up the knife itself, it would showcase him letting go of his role with the Blade of Marmora, along with showing that he no longer only has his knife to connect him to his family. The blade represented his mother. He thought he could only know about her with it.
Where did it come from? I have to know.
Your mother gave it to me.
Mom?
But now she's there by his side, helping him out. The blade is unnecessary for him to be in touch with his past and his family. KROLIA gave up the knife first by giving it to her family when she left to return to the Blade of Marmora. She regrets doing that. She promises to not leave her son again.
I left you once. I'll never leave you again.
The children of some Voltron characters are attempting to fix their parents' mistakes. Case in point, Lotor and Allura. Their parents started a war. They're trying to end it. Where their parents failed, they will succeed. Allura won't retreat.
You must be willing to sacrifice everything to assemble the Lions and correct my error.
Lotor won't destroy planets. Keith isn't going to do what KROLIA did. He'll do the reverse. He'll give up, lose, or retire his blade and leave the Blade of Marmora to return to his found family. Yes, he did initially do the same thing as KROLIA. Leave his family and join the Blades, it is. But with the two of them together, they'll learn from each other. He'll realize where he belongs. KROLIA originally didn't want him to get involved with the war, yet she'll be proud of him for how much he's done to help. And he can do more to help, especially with the Voltron situation. We see him wearing his paladin armor in this Netflix thumbnail, the same one where he has the skull remark. Before Season 5 was released, there was a Netflix thumbnail with Zarkon on it. This picture of him was from Blood Duel in Season 5, even though that episode wasn't out yet. So it's okay to presume this picture of him is from an episode that isn't out yet. Keith giving up, retiring, or losing his knife was also somewhat foreshadowed in the scene. There was chaos going on outside. His lion was there too. He hesitantly leaving the shack because of his knife.
If you go out that door, you'll never find out who you are.
He either stayed there for answers or went out to help. It was a choice between the blade and the lion. He chose the lion. Putting the blade to rest for him would be a symbolic thing. His mother is at long last there to answer his questions, as his father said she would do. He did technically find her through the blade. The writers required him to join the Blade of Remora to find her. Finding her was the reason they included the knife in the first place, as a way to track her down and link Keith more to his Galra blood. Since she's been found, the knife no longer holds a significant purpose to the story going forward, other than being a cool transforming weapon. Its main use now is primarily for a KROLIA flashback. The Blade of Remora are useful to Team Voltron. They do their dirty work to help inside the Empire, and I think it was a necessary experience for Keith to spend some time with them. Team Voltron simply needs him more, and he needs them, since his character arc is about connection, not being a loner. The blade being put to rest would be a symbolic gesture. But anyway, thanks for watching, and Rapid Zar.
Goodbye, Dad.